Hello, welcome to another episode of Tales from the Comments, where I share some interesting things that have come in from the comments over at the Bigfoot Society YouTube. So let's get at it. We've got a lot to go over today. Um, First thing is this is back from the skunk ape attacks and psychic Sasquatch. Hold on 1 minute here. And this comment says, Al, if he does see this, I've been bluff charged at Catskills, Delaware Wild Forest. Wow. Okay. So hopefully Al sees this. I'll have to let him know. But let's see. This individual, Krista, if you could reach out to me, and I'm going to say it once at the beginning because people don't like me repeating this 7,000 times. You can reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Send me an email. I would love to hear more about your experience in detail. We also have an individual. His name is Craig per username. This is from the Alaska Rainforest Bigfoot. It knew I was trapped. Craig says, I live in Juneau, Alaska, seen them 4 times and heard them many times. They ruin my hunting trips sometimes. Now, I hear that a lot, that some hunters, they get their hunting trip ruined and then they never go hunting again. Craig, I'd love to hear more about your experience if you're feeling up to sharing. An old friend, Mark Paul, checks in. This is from the Kentucky Bigfoot and the Dog Man short here. He says, that's exactly what a Bigfoot sounds like, because I heard one run off from my orchard back in May, northeast Tennessee, near the Cumberland River. If you haven't heard the Mark Paul episodes, you got to track them down. See if you can track them down. They're the Tennessee ones back in the backlog of Bigfoot Society. See if you could track them down. There's a lot of comments in this episode from the we buried a Bigfoot by our family graveyard when I interview the corporal. And I will just preface by saying, stay tuned. Hopefully there's more info about the corporal situation. User Ed says, love the epic episode, man. People like you and others will finally bring this beast to light. Thanks for what you do. I appreciate that. Here's some other comments that came in off of that same episode. User Aloysius Jackson, which is probably the best username on my channel. My first wife, the same one who was chased by a Sasquatch, which then screamed at me after I came outside with the rifle. So that's in parentheses. So my first wife grew up in a remote area of Mexico. I know I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize. She told me about the little troll people with big heads and says everyone out there knows about them. Apparently one time they even surrounded her as she was walking home just after dusk. They were talking to each other in a fast, high-pitched way, but eventually let her go. She also said that when the children would go swimming, they would get annoyed and throw rocks and sticks at them from the tree line. Sounds like a intense story. If anyone has ever experienced things like that in Mexico as well, and you would like to discuss that with me, you know how to reach me. Lee tags on to this comment, says, hey, lived there for 5 years. It's a crazy place. I can't even start to tell you some experiences we had in Morelia. Lee, feel free to reach out to me, please. Let's continue. Also on the Buried a Bigfoot by Your Family graveyard, Lee also says, I'm a Ojibwe descendant. My grandfather hunted and trapped on the reservation most of his life. He taught me how to hunt. He told me once that if I ever see a huge black hairy man with a dog's head, which I would assume is a dog man, but that I was to freeze and get low, not to move, to shoot if I was seen, and don't stop until it's dead. He was dead serious. There's another one up there in the North Woods around our people's lands, but I'm not supposed to say the name. I was told to never say that name. Lee, if you would like to reach out, I'm inviting you to do so. You sound like you have some incredible stories about your upbringing and your cultural background I would love to talk to you about. Another episode that there'll be a fair amount of comments in on this episode is I watched those Sasquatch tear those deer apart. Joe, the Sasquatch Whisperer, this is his second episode. End Times Ninja says, to me, the ones in the South where I'm from look like a chimp and a human mixed literally 50-50 with extremely exaggerated features. I saw a blue one, literal light blue haired in the Smokies that looked like a human with extreme Down syndrome. So I'm not sure. This might be a troll comment. I'm not sure. Um, I'm about half and half that it's a troll comment, but it brings up an interesting point is that I'm not quite sure. I'm noticing a commonality in a lot of what people are saying right now is that the creature looks to have like it had a form of Down syndrome, which is very interesting. And there might be something to that there. If you have any further information about that, feel free to leave it in the comments or you can email me. But just a commonality I have found in a lot of the comments I've been getting lately. Going back to we buried a Bigfoot by our family graveyard, Diz says, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you allowing your guests to speak without constant questions. So many important details never get said because the host will stop them to ask more details. So it was refreshing to just hear this man tell his story without interruption. I've mentioned this before, but I do try to make that a priority on my channel. Let the individual talk. They've probably never been able to tell their story front to back. And I know sometimes I do get pretty excited and I don't do this, but I would say 99% of the time I try to do this. It's very important to let the interviewee just tell their story, right? Let's see. So back to Dogman Unleashed and being silenced by the MIB with Al. This is the other Al, the Squatch Father episode. Al may look odd with his sunglasses trying to look like the mafia, but his content and experiences are good and interesting. Al must have gotten very close to discovering what the Dogman was for the MIB to follow him and confront him like that. Thank you guys for the video. It's a very interesting story. If you haven't heard this episode, I would recommend to go back and listen to it, just because Al does run into some situations. He gets almost forced off the road, and some guys come after him quite severely. Listeners, if you've ever had a situation where you think you've been approached or maybe even accosted by the MIB because of what you are researching, feel free to leave it in the comments, or I'm guessing you probably won't want to do that. You can always contact me directly, and you know how. A good old friend Swamp Dog swings by on the buried a Bigfoot by our family graveyard. Says a lot goes on in Kentucky. Ain't that the truth, my friend? I'm learning that as we go along. Kentucky is not a state to be messed with. There's a lot going on there. And I feel as we go along even further in Bigfoot Society, spoiler alert, there will be more Dogman episodes. I think we'll be getting more into Kentucky. Miss Shroom, which always has great comments on the channel, and we buried a Bigfoot by our family graveyard. Thank you, Corporal, for sharing with all of us. Thank you for you. Thank you for your and your family's service to the Constitution and our democracy. Much appreciated. Thank you for the nice comment. Also, user Happy says someone needs to go and personally interview him. That is amazing. All I can say is stay tuned. Things are going on in the background, and I really hope that they come to fruition. So cross your fingers, send out your good vibes, and hope that things that are going on in the background actually happen before we run out of time. User JT says, can the Colonel share any of his own pictures from his camera? The ones he shows those religious people at his doorstep. That's a great question. I totally should have asked it, and I will try to ask him. Billy T says Miguel missed out on a gem with this one. The way he gets mad at emails, though, it would have been entertaining. Great job letting him on. I'm a big fan of Miguel from Sasquatch Theory. Yeah. I'm even a. Oh, that's weird. Siri just activated on my phone. Why would it do that? I don't know. But I'm a big fan of Miguel. I would love to chat with him someday. I haven't actually approached him about that, but I hope to do that sooner than later. I mean, I love what he's doing on his channel. If you're not if you're not subscribed over at Sasquatch Theory, and I'm even a part of his membership too. Is the videos that he makes for his members and his YouTube channel membership are incredible. So I would recommend you do that as well. Let's see, from the Kentucky Bigfoot and the Dogman, Bill says the day will come one day in the future when these giant forest beings will no longer sneak away and instead will charge humans as well as the terrorizing dogmen. They will end their habits of leaving the area or hiding out of sight any longer as they have done. Do we think that maybe someday there'll be a Bigfoot Dogman war? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully that doesn't happen when I'm still around. So cross your fingers. Another another individual user DB on We Buried a Bigfoot says, would love to hear more from his relatives and people he knows. Thanks for sharing those encounters. DB, I am trying all I can to try to ask Corporal that he would pass on my info to his cousins or his relatives or people he knows, because I know, as if you heard in the episode, he's got a lot of connections that have seen a lot of things down there in Daniel Boone in Kentucky. And so send your good vibes, cross your fingers that we can get in contact with some of these other people to get the truth out. Alexandra, who is a channel member, I appreciate you, Alexandra, for being in the YouTube channel membership. So you get how to see videos early and ad free. And also, I'll be starting to do behind the scenes videos as well. You can join the channel in order to see those. But Alexandra says, thank you for another great video. Respect to this gentleman warrior. That's right. Prayers for Corporal as he goes through his illness right now. We buried a Bigfoot user, Len. Len is up there listening to Bigfoot Society while he's working on those planes. So thank you for listening, Len. I know you're going through the entire catalog right now, and I appreciate it. I just finished watching Something in the Woods. Interesting film. Gave me more insight into his childhood. I hope he survives and continues sharing his experiences. Watching from Kelowna, British Columbia. Hope I pronounced that right, but I appreciate you watching, Len. Here's a comment from, it had a face like a rock troll and covered in white hair, from Cowlitz County, Washington. Leslie says, I live near Packwood. We all pretty much know they are around us. And yes, they have seen more than one. And yes, they have been seen more than once around Packwood Lake area. Leslie, you've got some info. You've got at least knowledge of stories from over the years in that area, and I would love to hear about it. And if you're up for it, maybe even talk to you about it. But let's start by, if you could contact me directly, I would love to hear about what are these stories that you've heard around the Packwood area that would help give more truth to Bigfoot sightings in the Packwood area in Cowlitz County, Washington. Thank you for commenting. Mark, on the dark mystery of Bigfoot sightings on Prince of Wales Island episode way back, Mark says if you get some clear pictures of orbs, zoom them up and you can see faces in them. Well, I've never done this, Mark, but I'm kind of curious. And this question is for anyone who's done this as well. What kind of faces are you seeing in them? Are these faces you recognize? Are these fantastical faces? Who knows? I would love to know. Let me know what you've seen in these zoomed up orbs. I'm going to mispronounce one of the words in this coming comment, but it is a very serious one. I want to thank Elizabeth for sharing this. This is from the shocking link between Bigfoot and missing persons. Elizabeth says 3 years ago, a friend's father, who was 72, entered the Quesnel area of Olympic Peninsula in search of fall antlers and was never seen again. He was in excellent health, lived in Forks, and went every year. All that they found after weeks of searching was his car in the parking area. It's an extremely sad situation. Sounds like maybe a missing 411 situation. If anyone has any info about what happened to this gentleman, maybe if you saw a gentleman in that area about 3 years ago, feel free to reach out. It would be amazing if we could help bring closure to this, but you never know, right? Back to We Buried a Bigfoot, and this is from user Crystal, who has a lot of great comments as well. Did you hear how Corporal was describing these coyotes? Striped legs and striping on the back. Doesn't that sound like the dog that went extinct? Totally forgot the name of the dog, but it reminds me of that animal that went extinct supposedly. Crystal, thank you. And listeners, if you know what that animal is she's trying to describe, please put that in the comments. I wonder if she's trying if if it was like a hyena or something else. I don't know. Let me know. Try to figure it out for me. This is from an episode a week or so ago. We were ushered out of Backbone State Park. It's Iowa episode. Lynn says, I've had a Bigfoot by where I came. I want to say probably that's I've had a Bigfoot by where I am. I don't know. But Lynn, if you have more info about your sighting or you've seen a Bigfoot around there, if this is from something in Iowa, I would be very interested no matter where it is. You can reach out to me directly. You know how to do that. From a fan favorite country, the Oklahoma Bigfoot bounty hunter, user Green Hazmat says, at 22, I moved to a very secluded cabin off grid, 80 acres and end of the road in Spy Rock, California for 15 years. Had lots of weird things, sounds, and prints over the years. Well, Green, that sounds like we need to have a chat because that sounds like an incredible story, incredible things that you've encountered, and I would love to talk to you about it. Please reach out directly. Stephen chimes in with a nice comment. Rainier, Oregon, Bigfoot information. This is from the last Tales of the Comments. Stephen says, pretty epic channel and 16.2 subscribers, or 16.2 thousand subscribers. That's nothing to sneeze at. 1.6 million views, not bad. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you all being subscribed. And if you're not, please, you would be surprised how many watchers are not subscribed. Please, and I never ask you to, I'm going to start asking you to. Before I go on, take a minute, hit the subscribe button, and share this episode with a friend, please. Here's some more information about a 4-year standoff with Sasquatch in Rainier, Oregon. User Sunset says, cemetery is the Knights of Pythias historic cemetery off Near City Road in Rainier. There you go. There's some info for you guys. From the Joe the Sasquatch Whisperer episode, Slim says, I love this channel. It has the most realist encounters and stories that are told here for sure. I appreciate the kind words. Same episode. User Eris says, as someone who lives in Tishomingo County, they're definitely out here in the park. It sounds like you have some information, or maybe you've seen something, maybe about Bigfoot or other creatures as well. Eris, please reach out to me directly. You know how to do so. I would love to hear the information that you have heard or also what you've experienced. Here's an interesting comment. I'm going to read this as a discussion maker. This is from the same episode. Mark says, please, somebody help. What is going on? I've heard countless podcasts with witnesses telling terrifying or even matter of fact, that's the way it is, stories about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, constantly visiting and even living on property for years and decades. Many times where the people are being terrorized and desperately want someone to help. What? Does anyone see where I'm going with this? Match that with an entire endless Bigfoot research industry, research organizations, TV shows, scientists, hunters, part times, full times, etc., all equally desperately trying to find, photograph, capture, kill one of these things. This is so ridiculous that it's almost a comedy routine. In any case, I believe this guy and suggest a few researchers call this guy up. Absolutely. People need to call up Joe. I've put his contact information in the description for that episode. More people need to talk to Joe for sure. From the same episode, End Times Ninja says, it's no small wonder there's activity everywhere. I live downtown in Knoxville, and there was a sighting not 3 miles from here. Friend, reach out. I'd love to hear more about your sighting. From the William Morris Terror Gripped Me When I Saw It, Oregon episode, J Tad says, wow, I believe this man's story in encounters. His story just rolled off the tongue. He didn't have any pauses or anything. Great encounters by the sound of it. Well, that's a good point. You never know, right? I don't know. It's a very interesting episode. If you haven't listened to this, I would really suggest that you listen to it. William has a fascinating story, and everyone should really listen to it for sure. User Virginia says, I really enjoyed listening to Joe. He seems to live with activity daily, so he knows what he's talking about. I believe everything he's seen and heard. Maybe a few of those so-called researchers could learn a thing or two from him. Joe is a real talk gentleman, and we've been talking outside of the episode. He does have things going on every day. From the last call-in show, user John says, thanks from Bundaberg, Australia. These are great to listen to. I appreciate you swinging by, John. And you've got some interesting Yowie things going on down there. Let us know what's going on down there, John. Here's an interesting comment. This came out of an old episode, Roger Williams' episode, Sasquatch Terror in Central Tennessee Exposed. Roger also has a YouTube channel called Squatch and Holler. If you love this channel, you would love Roger's channel. Please, everyone, go over there and subscribe to it. User Steve says, Tennessee, the volunteer state. Very interesting place in the Great Smoky Mountains. I've been there many times, and this old man told me that there are feral people in those mountains. I never asked, but I know he was talking about the wood boogers. That's what we called them in southeastern Kentucky. Listeners, if you've ever had any interactions with feral people in the mountains, I've never asked, and I'm asking right now. Reach out to me, please, or you can put your stories in the comments. I'm sure some of you have run into some interesting things. From the last call-in show, Eric writes, I saw my Bigfoot in 1974. I would love to hear more and where you saw it, and contact directly, please. Going back to the first call-in, user Justin says, I agree the energy they put off is dangerous. Look how many investigators came down with cancer after being hit with infrasound or investigating them for a long time. I'm not sure how I feel about this comment, because I myself personally am a cancer survivor from the 80s. So that's a very near and dear topic to me. Honestly, Justin, I don't know if it's just a coincidence. I really don't know. If people have more, I don't know if I buy it, to be honest, but if you have more information about how those two things could be connected, feel free to put them in the comments. It might just be I'm too close to that because I went through, but that'd be interesting to hear if anyone has any more information about it. Mitchell from the same episode says, Bigfoot's my favorite topic, but I love to hear about all cryptids, orbs, UFOs, little people, dogman, skinwalkers, Mothman, ghosts, and paranormal. Many people believe these creatures have something in common with Sasquatch. So that's the thing. It might all come back to Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but it's all connected to everything else as well. So All I'm going to say is you'll start to see other topics come into Bigfoot Society over the coming months. User Crystals on the Matt Pruitt episode says, I've watched everything that has come from this channel and I've never been disappointed. Plus, I'm always amazed at the total recall and memory the host has for details. Keep up the great content. I really appreciate that, Crystal. I try to do my best. Here's some interesting comments that came in off of the second Henry Franzoni episode. CIA pushed me off my Bigfoot site in Rainier. Baseball Bob says, I grew up in the shadow of that power plant, but on the other side of the river. I've been all over the Trojan plant. Very mystical, neat place. I believe they shut down the Trojan plant years ago. Well, first off, Baseball Bob, let me know why you think it's so mystical and neat. If you have any interesting encounters or stories that you've heard, feel free to reach out. Mud Dog says, you're correct. Trojan has been gone for years now. My dad was a logger for 40 years out of Woodland, and he said that Mist, Oregon was the most cringy and flat out creepiest place he'd been. And he'd been to a lot of places. Mud Dog, you got to reach out to me and let me know what your dad experienced out in Mist, because this is all connected, and we got to find the truth about what's going on in that Rainier / Mist / that whole area. Let's there's going to be a few really interesting comments coming up, so get ready for them. User Hanan says, in my honest opinion, I would think if the Bigfoot people were in charge over a government, as the guest states, then I don't think big corporations, including the logging industry, would be able to continue the pollution and destruction of land, forests, rivers, lakes, streams, etc. Not to mention the encroachment of humans on their territory. Just my thoughts. I'm intrigued by what your guest shares with us, as I firmly believe the existence of these creatures and all the testimony of my fellow man, woman, and child. Thank you for your dedication to saving the salmon. So that is a fantastic comment, and here's why. He doesn't necessarily agree with what the guest said, but he states it in a respectful and nice way, and I think a lot of us can learn from that. And thank you for leaving your comment. What do I feel about that? Well, let's say, they might be Bigfoot, where if they're in charge of the government now, they're in a better place and they don't care about what happens to the woods. Now, that's just me being a little sassy, because I don't think that's a valid scenario. But yeah, who knows? Let's see. There's an interesting message thread that happened here. So Captain Shep says, I've lived in Florida for about the last 28 years. My Sasquatch sightings were in northern Michigan in 1972 while camping with two of my cousins and a friend of ours. I was 14 years old. It was a very brief encounter, about 2 to 4 a.m., and very non-aggressive. It was not a bear. And it looks like he also responded to Miss Shroom, yes, sir, Hardy Dam Pond, 1972. Christine jumps in, wow, I'm in mid-Michigan woods outside Harrison. Took video of huge straight-line snow tracks here in March 2021, over 6 feet apart. I don't want to see one. Captain Shep says, fortunately, it was a very brief and non-aggressive encounter. I'm guessing it was 6 to 7 feet tall. All 4 of us saw it, and I can guarantee you it was not a bear. Anyone involved with that thread, if you have more information about what you're throwing out, you can always email me directly with that information. Catman of the Desert, which is a crazy episode. It's a members only episode. So you have to be either a YouTube channel member or part of the Patreon with patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. But it is wild. It's all about Sasquatch, Florida stuff. I think there's some Sasquatch Florida stuff in there, but the main thing is the Catman stuff out in Nevada at the testing range. Oh my goodness, it's wild. Crystal says, you're a machine. Thanks for the drop. Oh, thank you. Felicia also says, totally agreed. Also, this show was great. It's mind-blowing stuff to some who haven't researched this. It's what I've thought all along, and for the most part, it rang true for me, hoping it'll be one day soon that we all get the truth with real disclosure to the public. Thanks, Felicia. Here's some other interesting comments that came in off the Henry Franzoni episode, which is the second one. Make sure you go back and listen to the first one. Lisa says, Jeremiah, this is the most informative podcast I've listened to regarding the Bigfoot. I've listened to hundreds of podcasts on the subject. Henry is spot on, I believe, what these creatures are and what they can do. The truth is coming out finally, little by little. Keep up the good work. I love listening to your podcast. If you think that podcast was good, Lisa, get his book. It will absolutely rock your world, but thank you for the kind words. And Christine also says, great interview. I appreciate that, Christine. More newer episode. Grinned at us as it walked out of the orchard. Cricket says, I believe every word this gentleman is saying. His descriptions are too detailed to not be true. I admire and even envy encounters that people have had, and I can imagine what a toll it is on their memory to recall it. Amazing channel. I enjoy very much. It's incredible how he experienced all these things back in 1958, but I have no doubt that he can remember it because of he was also California Highway Patrol, so his mind is sharp. Mr. Black is a fantastic interview. Richard says on the Henry Franzoni episode, it's great to hear Henry Franzoni. I'm currently reading his book and find it fascinating. Everyone should get both of Henry Franzoni's books. I've got the links in the show notes for that episode. From the Franzoni episode, there's few here. NV5150, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The military just might be working with Bigfoot, but we just don't know that that's true because we have no evidence to support the theory. None that I know of that exists anywhere. You need to get Henry Franzoni's book. That's all I'm going to say about it. Matthew Sexton, or Matthew, who is a channel supporter, and I appreciate you being a channel supporter, Matthew. You can join the channel to become a channel supporter and help Bigfoot Society. Here's why it's important, guys. Okay. Here's why it's important, right? So the goal is to become full-time by the end of 2024 at the latest. In order for that to happen, here's how you can help. You can become a Patreon member, patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. You get episodes early and ad-free, and you can become a YouTube channel member. You can do both if you want. The cool thing about the YouTube channel member is you get a cool emoji next to your comments, and I'm going to get you an extra special shout out because I'm going to say you're a channel member. But it has the same extra content on either one. Patreon has a little bit extra because it's got some really cool community things. But you check out Patreon, you can see how it's extra stuff. Anyways, your support means a lot, and it's how it's going to get Bigfoot Society full time. So if you can swing it, at least join one of those for a month. Give it a try. If everyone did who watches this would be set, we could go full time next month. No questions asked, but your help is greatly appreciated. Back to the show. Off of the Fred Roll episode, Amy says, Fred Roll is a salt of the earth man. He authentically cares about his community and their safety about hearing man. There's high strangeness in Alaska, and it's a brutal environment. His encounter helping his uncle was terrifying. So grateful he slipped on ice, missing a large boulder thrown directly at his head. Please check out his channel and his website showing all encounters throughout Alaska. Mad respect for Fred. Fred is one of the top guys in the community. I was blown away by our interview. Just the stories Fred has, the incredible things he's experienced. Please make sure you're subscribed to Subarctic Alaskan Sasquatch. The link to that is in the show notes for this episode if you haven't. Aloysius Jackson with some of the best comments on the channel. This one's from the Henry Franzoni episode. I find it hard to believe that Bigfoot controls our government. Besides the accounts of the government killing them off, why would an advanced forest creature command the destruction of its own planet? This sounds more like something a cave-dwelling, heartless reptile or gray would do. Throughout history, giants and descendants of Nephilim crossbreed breeding paracas, long skulls, etc., have been wiped out by the lowercase gods and humans alike. There's a lot to unpack there. And I don't know how I feel about it. But if you are listening and you have an encounter with something like the Greys or heartless reptiles that live in caves or giants or descendants of Nephilim or know about the Paracas long skulls and you'd love to talk about that with me, reach out, please. Maybe we could have an episode about it on the podcast. That would be fun. Here's some interesting comments that came in from Mona. I just thought they were nice. I'm going to read them. They're from the Martin Groves episode, which is LBL Dogman Encounter from Martin Groves. It's a great episode if you haven't heard it. Mona says, I'll never go hunting again. I'm glad I haven't had this experience. God bless you, man. So glad you made it out alive. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I always wanted to go there, but have been to the Smokies several times. Those things are evil. Being a Christian, thank God, saved you. There's no doubt in my mind, after talking to him directly, that Martin Groves had, he had some spiritual protection that day. No doubt in my mind. Continuing, Mona says, wow, I always wondered what the correlation between Bigfoot and the wolf cryptids. Wow. I've heard stories where the Bigfoots just try to scare you away because you're in their territory, but never imagined they use the wolves. It's wild, right? This episode is how the Bigfoot and the Dogman interact. I used to listen to park ranger stories and they don't speak of it. So not to scare off the tourists, but people need to know. Absolutely. I'm almost at the end. My last husband was a bow hunter. He passed 2 years ago. Sorry to hear that. I still have his bow and arrows and his Gibson 1968, I think. Close. That he used to play at Honky Tonks in Cookeville, Tennessee. We were married 7 years. When I met him in 1980, he'd brought about 300 deer and a lot of turkey, and we hunted together in Carthage, Tennessee. I like those comments because, listeners, life comes at you fast. And if you have someone you love, realize what you have every day, because someday they may be gone. And spend time with your kids, spend time with your loved ones. Mona, I'm sorry that you lost your husband, but it sounds like he left quite the legacy in your memories and probably in your community. Thank you for commenting. Going on. Jane Doe. Here we go. I believe this is from the Henry Franzoni episode. There are authentic UFOs that are not man-made, and there are UFOs that are man-made, which are based upon reverse-engineered authentic non-human UFOs. There's also a division in our military regarding authentic non-human UFOs. Now well-known footage, TikTok, etc. Tic-tac. Sorry, not TikTok. Jeez, that's such a boomer move. Tic-tac. That has been released by the Pentagon is all from Navy aircraft. I've heard the Navy wants the truth to come out about authentic UFOs, but the Air Force does not. So a lot of allegedly in here. Or I would say, I'm just going to throw that in. That's how Bigfoot Society views that, allegedly, right? It's an internal power struggle, and as of late, the group that wants disclosure is making some headway. I think the same factions have similar stances with other paranormal phenomena, such as cryptids in anomalous locations, such as Skinwalker Ranch. Why? Because it's all connected. I've heard that some of the differences between the factions regarding disclosure is due to personal religious beliefs and how that may be molding their views regarding anomalous phenomena, including UFO, aliens, Sasquatch, cryptids, etc. They think that anything anomalous is of the devil and they want it to be left alone, covered up. There's a lot going on there. I would say that there are definitely certain factions within the government that are trying to get the truth of UFOs released. And there's some weird stuff going on in the world today. And if you have experienced any of that weird stuff that was just read about here, UFOs, aliens, Sasquatch, cryptids, reach out to me, please. I would love to be a venue where you could get the truth out on a Bigfoot Society episode. But let's start the conversation by reaching out to me directly, unless you just want to do a call in Sunday nights, Bigfoot Society AM. Call in the number. It's at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we can just do it live. Let's do it. Channel supporter Matthew Sexton says, and this is on the Henry Franzoni episode, you guys really, Todd Standing has chunks of skin with hair of Sasquatch, and the proof is out there, you're just not looking. These guys appear on nuclear military bases and bang on doors. You don't follow Bigfoot tracks and find him. I go to areas they're in and search till they connect telepathically. I understand it sounds crazy, but telling people they're crazy because they understand something you don't shows you're truly a product of the system. If tens of thousands of reports is not proof, I think you're wrong for wanting more proof. Wow. Matthew really came out ablaze in there, but he does make some solid points. There are so many reports, and yet a lot of people that still don't believe. And I don't know. What do you think in the comments? Leave in the comments what it's going to take for more people to believe that Bigfoot is real. Will there need to be a specimen? What do you think? Jane Doe says, wow, most excellent interview. Now going back to watch the first one. Everyone should go back and watch the first Franzoni episode. It's going to blow your mind. This guy is a fountain of knowledge and would love to hear more from him. Absolutely. You're going to love that episode then. Here's some fun anecdotal things from Estelle about from the Alex Petikoff episode. Estelle says you can get some shale punctures in your tires on some of the main back roads up north. I think shale is a type of rock. Let me know in the comments if I'm right there. Mountain lion was recently found on a game camera on Bethel, Maine, up Chapman Brook. It has also been physically spotted. Yeah, they say there's no mountain lion in New England. I'll tell you, the mountain lion is in New England, no matter what Fish and Game or whoever says. From the Franzoni episode, Sir Baron says, dude interviewing this knows this is gold. You can see on his face, LOL, great content. Thanks. So here's the thing. Yes, I was totally into that episode. One, because I consider Henry Franzoni to be a good friend of mine. Two, I love talking to him. And three, he made the whole storyline with Rainier, Oregon is becoming a big storyline within Bigfoot Society. And I didn't even realize that Henry Franzoni had more information and could connect the dots for me. And that's why I was just like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. If you have more information about Bigfoot in Rainier, Oregon and Trojan Nuclear and Bigfoot sightings in that area, please reach out to me directly. You know how. You can also do the comments, but it's easier to just reach out. Staying Healthy says, this is best channel on YouTube about Sasquatch. Love it, and I will share it. I'm your Podbean subscriber. I appreciate you. Thank you. Another great super thanks from Dames Rick's Flight Deck on the Fred Roll episode. $2 super thanks. I appreciate that. You may think that $2 is small. It's huge to me because it means that someone cares enough to support me. And if everyone did those super thanks, it would be game over. We would just be going for it. So thank you, Dames. From the It Granddada says it walked out of the orchard. Jim says, I've heard Mr. Black's encounter a few years ago on another podcast. Spoiler, it's Sasquatch Chronicles. It's a fascinating story. I've heard dozens of interviews over the years told and described by the witnesses, and Mr. Black's is undoubtedly a genuine and sincere account of his experience. To touch on the question of if the government is aware of these creatures, in my opinion, they do. Both the U.S. and Canadian internal government departments, armed forces, and national police forces, like this RCMP in Canada and the FBI in the States. Internationally, also, Russia and Australia, for example, their existence is also kept quiet. That's the big question in my mind. But why? The Bluff Creek film proves they're real. It's time we dug deeper. Jim brings up some interesting info or questions. Listeners, do you think the different governments of the world have information to do with Sasquatch? Let me know in the comments what you think. Same episode, Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says facial features that looked like an Indian. Well, that's because, guys, this is just listen to the comment. If you have anything then to respond, you can put in a comment in the episode. Facial features looked like that of an Indian. That's because they are the true Indians. Almost all the artifacts deemed Indian, like pottery, baskets, arrowheads, are actually from Sasquatch or the stick Indians. They're responsible for rock walls like the Berkeley Walls, massive stick structures like teepees, boulder stacks, cairns, petroglyphs, pictographs. Almost all the things human Indians do were passed down from the Sasquatch brothers. That's an interesting perspective. Personally, well, I was going to say something, but I haven't researched it out. So my gut says I don't agree with it, but I also have not. I haven't researched it out, so I'm not going to go either way right now. I'm going to research it out first because that's what we should all do is research stuff out before we jump on a bandwagon about it. So if you've researched this out and you have more info, please put it in the comments. Also, leave any resources that I should look into to research that out, any books or anything like that. Going back to the Sasquatch encounter at Crow Creek episode, that's a good one. Weird Around Illinois account says, love these Illinois Bigfoot stories, but it seems like sightings peaked in the 70s in this state and have been falling off ever since. I understand that trend in the Chicagoland area with the population growth, but downstate seems like it still has some great Bigfoot habitat. Where have all our Bigfoots gone? So I'm going to say right off the bat, southern Illinois, Little Egypt is going to really disagree with you because there's a lot of Bigfoot action down there. Just from what I've heard, listeners, if feel free to provide any current accounts of Bigfoot sightings in Illinois, so that Weird Around Illinois and the rest of us can know about the current Bigfoot sightings in Illinois. But again, just look in southern Illinois, Little Egypt area, you're going to see there's some Bigfoot stuff going on down there for sure. Going back to Joe, the Sasquatch Whisperer, J.J. Johnson says, I live in Colbert County. I was taking my lawnmower to be serviced in Luca, Mississippi this spring. While going west on Highway 72, right on the Alabama and Mississippi line, I saw what seemed to look like an old Bigfoot that was gray and black, sickly looking. It's about a half a mile from the Tennessee River. Oh, I just realized oh man. That could potentially not be a Bigfoot. That could be a rake as well. There's been a lot of rake sightings in that area. JJ, I would love to have you reach out to me directly. It could definitely be a Bigfoot that you saw. It also could be something else. And I might be able to get you in touch with someone that would really need to talk to you. In Call-In Show 001, Rhonda says, I have so much to share. My phone won't let me chat on live chats, and I've never sent an email before. I've had everything from portals, beings, the grays, Bigfoot, aka monster, and orbs. Rhonda, that's why I have a call-in show. So I hope that you can call in on the future, or hopefully you can partner with a relative or the library that can help you send an email to bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Kevin says, your chat was too late for me, JB, but I like that you're doing this. Yes, I would love to hear Dogman and other cryptid encounters. Wendigos, rakes. Thank you so much. Appreciate your channel so much. Thank you for the kind word, Kevin. Jermaine on the Joe, the Sasquatch Whisperer says, I really was captivated by his stories. Most of the time I get bored with these channels and tune out. This guest was the real deal. He really is. Joe is great. I've already read that one. Let's see. Keller from the Call-In Show. I'm also from Western Mass. When are we going to get a guest from that area? Lots of Swash activity out there. I've had 2 experiences personally in Beckett. Anyway, I'm a huge fan. I love listening to your podcast while I'm working. So, Keller, thank you for listening. Here's the thing. I have tried. Don't I know that I've tried so many times, over and over. And I grew up in Western Mass, so I know that the way that we work out there is people don't talk to you unless they know you, unless you're part of the community. They don't talk to you unless you're not, unless you are in the community, right? That's how it was when I grew up out there. It's a beautiful area. I love it. I miss it. So when it comes to me asking people about their Bigfoot encounters, of course they're going to tell me I don't want to talk to you. Um, and that's happened a few times where I've tried to contact specific people. Um, if you, I mean, I talked to Keller. If if you want to reach out to me, please send me an email. Or if you're a person from Western Massachusetts and you've had Bigfoot encounters and you'd love to talk about it, please reach out to me, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. I'm saying the email because it's important that people know it for this. Please reach out to me. I want to talk to some witnesses, let them share their stories about encounters in Western Massachusetts. It's just an area I haven't had a lot of yet. Sean brings up an interesting point. I'm a 100% believer, but he's in the barn talking on his phone while watching them. No pics, no video. Why? Joe actually responds, because I wasn't trying to prove that they are real to everyone. We were watching the real thing in real life and dealing with the actual situation. It's a different story when you have them in your vicinity. Yeah, I totally get it. If you're in a situation where you're being charged by a grizzly bear, you're probably going to think about trying to not die instead of taking a video for TikTok. I don't know. From the fishing with Bigfoot on a remote lake in Arkansas. User video. I just can't bring myself to believe it's an animal of any description. I've read there are BLM, forestry departments, estimates of 4 to 6 million game, private hunting cams in use in the U.S., and endless non-IR traffic gate cams. No one can tell me that with this volume of cams and an apparent creature of this size, there can't be one clear photo of this thing. Just one. I do believe it's appearing most deaf as it's reported, yet something isn't right here. I fully believe people are seeing it. Quantum physics is where I land every time, as it's all that's left. Love how you do your shows, by the way, quality stuff. Okay, listeners, what do we think about this? Do you think there is a good photo that's been captured out there? Or do you think because of how they can tell the game cameras are, we're never going to get a good game camera photo? Let me know in the comments. Here's an interesting story that came across on an older episode. Police officer finally reveals his Bigfoot encounters. 35 Big Country says, in 2008, me and a friend ran across one in Pine Hall, North Carolina at dusk on dirt bikes. He crossed the 12-foot road in one stride. It had brownish hair. We could see his head over a 7.5-foot tall tree. There was a family over them that migrated every year about the same time. We even got footprints in the dirt because our house was recently built. We heard the Ohio howl and tree knocks. When we saw him, we had to turn around and ride back through the same area. The hair stood up on our arms because you could feel like you were being watched. There were lots of wildlife ponds and creeks around, so that's why we think they liked our location. Glad I finally got to share my story. It sounds like you have a very interesting story. If you'd like to reach out directly and share that on the show, I'm inviting you to 35 Big Country. I would love to chat with you about it. Cathexis says, I'm all in for some Dogman stories from the Oklahoma City Farm Bigfoot show. Call in show 1. Well, saddle up. There's some coming. Carol on We Buried a Bigfoot says, wow, just wow. Anxious to hear any follow up on this, the gravesite, etc. Thank you for sharing, Corporal, and best wishes to you with your cancer treatment. Hang in there. I hope to have some updates coming in the future for you. Oh, yep. This is another one from Matthew that I haven't read yet. from CIA pushed me off my Bigfoot site in Rainier. Matthew is a channel supporter and YouTube. Thank you, sir. I'm 100% they're all connected. I can drive 2 hours and see a different group and they'll project the same thing to me. They've marked me a long time ago. I think there are high energy areas on this planet and they can tap into it. The invisibility is amazing. People walk by them all the time and they have no idea they're there. When I retrace my steps from a hike the day before, they track and study me as I try and study them. Great stuff. There's a lot of us on board. A lot of us just keep quiet about it because it seems crazy. Great point there at the end, Matthew. If you have seen something, say something, and you can say something by emailing me directly. We're not going to find the truth unless we all start sharing what we have learned. Roy from the Rainier, Oregon Bigfoot information says, I don't believe anything in particular, but evidence certainly seems to point towards Bigfoot having abilities we do not understand. Absolutely. From We Buried a Bigfoot by Our Family Graveyard, someone who knows says, oh, I'm from Hopkinsville, Kentucky area, 30 minutes away. My granddad had a 186-acre farm, and we played in the woods all the time. I never saw anything. Thank goodness. He has at least 3 caves there as well. We were never allowed to play near the caves. I want to contact my cousins to see if they remember anything cryptid or any high strangeness. Hopkinsville is 15 miles, 10 minutes from Fort Campbell. We were stationed there for 3 years. Reach out if you find some more information out. That sounds pretty crazy. I think I'm gonna read the rest of these. Yeah, just in case. Okay. So here's a trick, and I'm gonna have to start doing these more and more because there's so many comments and interesting things that come in. Our last comment is going to be way back from, it's from 30 Bigfoot Stories with Rick Rasmer, which is a great episode from a few days ago. User Vaseline says, I live in Boring, Oregon. Weird stuff is starting up again after the fires a couple years ago, especially up the Clackamas River. I know some folks who are highly experienced, and I've seen some pics of prints and structures from this year. One person is a Fed, and the others are researchers, hunters, and locals. This is very interesting. Of course, if you're into Bigfoot, you know that Boring, Oregon is the site of the North American Bigfoot Center, NABC, so all that good stuff. If you're a member of the NABC, you know there is a lot of Bigfoot stuff going on around that area. That's why the NABC is in that area. But Vaseline, I would love to hear more. Feel free to reach out to me. And if you are also in the Boring, Oregon area, know about this, these things that are starting to happen up along the Clackamas River, please reach out to me. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can put what you know in the comments as well. Appreciate you all watching Bigfoot Society. If you hear of any interesting Bigfoot related any information or encounters, or if you've experienced anything yourself, and this is the first time that you've listened to Bigfoot Society, feel free to share what you've experienced in the comments, or you can email me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com to start a conversation, and maybe we can even set it up so you can share your encounter on the show, but we'll start with a discussion about it first. But again, thank you so much to all those that support Bigfoot Society by being YouTube channel members or Patreon members, patreon.com/Bigfoot Society, or you can hit the join button on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like, and share your favorite Bigfoot Society episode with a friend. I will see you next time, all. Actually, I'm going to put in the clip of the Oklahoma farm from the last call-in episode. So there's a little bit more coming up in this episode.
Oh, yeah, I have several stories growing up on the farm in Oklahoma.
Okay.
We had a huge farm, and we lived out in the country area. And I don't know if you know much about Bigfoot, but I'm telling you right now, he always travels close to water. He's always close to water. And there was a river that ran back in the back of our pasture. And when we first moved there, we noticed something came around the house, you know, and it was real dark because out in the country, and we didn't have lights set up outside so we could see what was going on. But something actually kicked our house and threw rocks the first night that we lived there. I was 8 years old. And I'm talking, this is a long time ago. And anytime, like I said, we had horses, they would never stay out in the pasture after dark. You could literally set rocks and watch the horses run to the barn, and because they knew what was down there. And Bigfoot would come to our home. Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. Well, anyways, I don't know if I'm talking too much, but
no. So sorry, I just let people talk. So go right ahead. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. What part of Oklahoma are you from?
Oklahoma City.
Oh yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so my dad finally had to put a fence up, you know, because we lived out in the country, and something coming close to our house, you know, messing with our burn bills, because we'd burn our trash. We lived on 88 acres, and we had huge gardens, and we had pigs, and the Bigfoot would never come really close to the house because my dad put the fence up, but he was always harassing our livestock. He would climb. He was so huge, he could just lift his leg up and climb over our garden fence. You could see his footprints on one side and the other side, and he would like step on watermelons, and they would just be flattened. And my dad was a pretty big guy. He wasn't really scared of a lot of things, but something came to our wheelhouse when it was harassing our dogs. And my father went outside, and I don't know what he saw, but he went inside the house, and he said, "You guys stay inside." And he had to point his gun out the window and shot it up in the air to scare off whatever that thing was. We used to hang our onions, you know, when you have a garden, hang your onions like in your well house.
Yeah.
You know, country people do that. And I guess Bigfoot come around. He want to get up there and get those onions. And my dad went inside the house, and it got the most horrific smell because I was standing close to him when he opened that window and had to shoot outside. And of course, it ran off, but it would come back, and we had to put I swear, it was a 50-pound rock on our burn barrel, okay, because it had gone through it before. And so we said, okay, we're just going to put this on here and figure out what's going on. And it came the next night, and that 50-pound rock was clear across. So, like, somebody just picked it up and just threw it. It's like, oh, you think you're going to stop me? So, I mean, there were so many times I couldn't even tell you. Even in our electric company, back in the day, it was such you know, the area was like, not a lot of people lived out there, but they had it stamped Bigfoot territory right there along the river that ran in our back pasture. I'm telling you, Bigfoot was around all the time, constantly. We recorded him. My mother, we finally got an extension cord and recorder, and we took it as far out in the pasture, and you could just hear him hollering out there.
You have sound recordings?
Yeah, it was. No, not anymore.
Okay.
I'm telling on myself, but we're talking like 55 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because I was a small girl, you know, and we lived on there for years and years and years. And a lot of people would call it the green-eyed monster sometimes. You hear them talk about it on the radio.
Okay.
But no, it was Bigfoot. And we heard him hollering out in the pasture. Yes. And my brother drove out there in his van trying to get some firewood. He thought he was safe with his friends. You never saw so many grown men running for their lives. I mean, it was just insanity.
Wow. You said Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City on the outskirts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it like a
Right after.
certain suburb area or actually Oklahoma City, just on the outskirts?
Well, I guess you could say the suburb would be close to like Jones, Oklahoma.
Okay.
We were kind of out there in the country area, and we had a farm, and we lived far from the highway. So we had a river. There was lots of, I don't know, but Bigfoot came up to our house one time and was messing with the hogs, and the hogs got out. And they're scary animals. Some of them are very vicious. So we had to go down in the pasture and we had this little makeshift stall that we kept in. We went back up to the house to go get the truck and, try to go catch them, get them in the pen, into the trailer. By the time we got back, they had no bells whatsoever left. Whatever got a hold of our hogs literally ate their intestines and left the rest of their body.
The
I kid
Bigfoot
you not.
ate the hogs?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes. We thought for years, well, maybe it was a cougar got out or a bear, but no. Whatever it was always harassing us. I'm telling you, it was Bigfoot.
Did you see any tracks?
We had one. Oh yeah, we had several tracks.
Okay.
Several. We only had one. One time we found a track close up to our house. But it was mainly the Bigfoot would be out in the pasture. He'd be out there by the garden, messing around with the pigs, all far from the home, and just weird things. And he would get brave and come around the house a couple of times. Now, one time I took some people out there that didn't believe me. I said, okay, we'll go stay down in the pasture. We'll go stay down deep in the pasture. And we're out there, we're camping. I'm like, I'm getting kind of cold. I think I'm just going to sit in the car. I got kind of that creepy feeling you get, like you're being watched. Mm-hmm. Nobody believed me, so I was just kind of keep calm and cool. And I got back in the car, and like an hour later, something was pushing on the car, okay, and was looking in the window and was grunting and blowing on the window. It was looking in there. Tell you, that place was the scariest place on the earth. I should write a book. I've never been so, from my childhood, oh my God.
Wow.
From age 8, I didn't know anything different. Age 8. Back then we talk about it. People would be like, oh, it was something you hear on the radio once in a while, but it's real. This is real. There's nothing in my mind. I've heard him yell. He's thrown objects. He's messed with trees. He messed with our garden. He would mess with our pigs. He rarely came around the house, only like that one time, and when he got that, when he threw that rock off that barrel.
Did you?
I'm getting scared just thinking about it right now.
Oh, absolutely. Did you get a good look at the creature at any point?
One time I was looking down in the pasture, and people don't realize they're always looking down when they're looking for Bigfoot. If you're around big trees, you need to be looking up, because he didn't always stay on the ground. Oh. Now, that's where people make their biggest mistakes, is Bigfoot. We used to have the hugest trees out in our pasture, and we used to have huge willow trees. And we'd go out there, and you could look. They were actually sleeping in that willow tree. We went out in the pasture, there's a huge willow tree, and we went underneath the branches, and you could see where all the grass had been pushed down, and weird hair, and berries, and like little, I don't know, it was just weird stuff. And we've seen like caves made out of branches close by the river. Because, we would go quite a while. We'd go fishing. So we would come across all this stuff. We came across bones of deers out in our pasture area. A lot of that area has been bought now, but I'm talking years ago. And I honestly believe, and I know without a doubt, he always stays close to water.
Absolutely.
Always. I don't know if he gets down in it and hides, and that's what makes him so stinky. I don't know. But he does have an odor, and it's pretty frightening. multiple times. We were outside and he just let out the biggest holler you ever heard.
Oh, sure.
We were so scared we ran to the front door and we couldn't get the door open. We were so scared.
Wow. Was there ever
and
a
I'm
point...
59 now, and that's been, and I go back out there and I ask people, you ever had any problems? You ever had any problems? Well, now it's all just warehouses out there.
Oh, sure.
It's off I-35, so they've kind of changed that all to warehouses and such. But I know he's still out there somewhere.
Oh,
I'm sure of it.
In Oklahoma, I mean, you hear reports today from all over the place, especially the southeast. I mean, crazy out there.
Definitely. Yes. I'm beginning to think that Bigfoot might hibernate. Honest to God, I've always thought about that because you don't always see him, and when you do see him, you got to be out there for a while, and you have to know which, You just can't be like, oh, he's going to show up. You kind of have to stake it out for a while and stay out there. That's where a lot of the people just show up and they leave. You got to make a plan to be out there. And I wouldn't do it in the wintertime, like I said. I think that he hibernates or something. Because you don't really hear all this in the wintertime. He's only around when there's like, gardens and such. Sure. But, yeah.
Was there ever a time that you remember where in Oklahoma, the creature always seems to get like very aggressive, or there could be things like the siege at Honubby that happened? Was there anything that ever happened in your area that you remember where, there was an aggressive encounter with a Bigfoot?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, if you're, it's kind of scary Bigfoot is a very intimidating creature.
Sure.
He had me terrified all the time. I think I don't know, he just has that ability to do it. He's very terrifying. And, I think that a couple of times that my brother had been out there looking for him, I think he gave him a really good show. And we just scared him to death, so they'd never come back.
Absolutely.
And my brother's not a little guy. We're talking 6'4". How many 6'4" guys are out there in the woods and they hear something and
right.
And he ran so fast he knocked all his friends out of the way because he knew. They were like, "Oh, you're hallucinating," and he's like, "No, I'm not."
Wow.
But anyway, it's pretty. I'll call you another time and I'll think of some more of the memories we've had because, like I said, you got to be around for a while and you have to have something you want. We always had a garden. We always had chickens and horses and pigs around. And
was there only one Bigfoot, do you think, or do you think there was more than one?
Oh, I think there's at least 3.
Yeah.
Like he asked me if I actually seen one. One time I was sitting in the back of our backyard. You could look off down in the pasture. Mm-hmm. And I think I caught it off guard because I turned and I looked, and I was looking down there real closely. And yeah, he stays close to trees. He can, I swear I saw one. Somehow he hit his head behind a branch, and I was looking, and I was like, I know that's a body. So I sat there for a long time, and it wouldn't move. Just froze. And the more I think about it, it was really going, don't see me.
Right.
But anyway.
That's fun. I
don't tell a lot of people this. They'll think you're crazy. But I'm telling you, when you come from a family of 7 children, okay, you can ask us all separately, and we all know.
Wow.
We all know. I've got so many stories. I don't tell many people. They look at me like I'm insane.
Well, you found the right place to tell.
I'm like, okay, you can think whatever you want.
Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.